Hi everybody, it's Lisa Campion here. Welcome to my Increasing Your Psychic Intelligence little mini class. Really happy to do it. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. And it's a subject that's near and dear to my heart, mostly because, I've been a psychic for, I think it says 20 years on my website, but honestly, it's been longer than that. And I started when I was 19, and I think it's the coolest job ever. I love working with people, and I love helping people, and I feel really passionate about training other people how to access their psychic intelligence. It's something that's near and dear to my heart, and I feel like my mission on Earth is to help psychics, healers, sensitives, empaths, those type of people really fully access their gifts and step into their power, step into their life purpose, because the world needs all the healers it can get. The world needs all the sensitives it can get, and especially now more than ever, I think many of us are called to access our gifts. I think the energy of the world right now, if you think about what we call the shift or the ascension, which I really believe in a lot of ways. There's some aspects to it that I'm not sure about, but I definitely feel that as humanity is sort of increasing its awareness, there's many people waking up on the planet right now, and part of what they're waking up to is our latent abilities, our inner gifts. So there's a lot of people going through spontaneous psychic openings, noticing that they're more and more sensitive, more empathic, more psychic. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what all those different terms mean. And I also think that we do a lot of things these days that help us increase our psychic ability. So we practice yoga, we do Reiki, we meditate, and all of those things back in the day were just tools that mystery school people would do to increase their awareness. And now it's sort of common, like these things are on every street corner. These things are really available to all kinds of people. So I think it's quite timely, really, to be talking about how do we step into these gifts, and what does even it mean? So I kind of want to start with that. Like, what does that even mean to be psychic? And some people say the word psychic, that word freaks some people out. I tend to own it and live in it. Other people say, well, I'm not psychic, I'm intuitive, I'm sensitive, I'm a highly sensitive person, I'm an empath. So I wanted to kind of start about talking about what all those things mean. And I think there's like a lot of funny ideas that we get about this, like what we see on TV. There's movies and TV psychics, and we get kind of a lot of funny ideas, I think, or TV is TV and reality is reality. They're not the same. And I don't know, like, I wanted to get real about what's happening, it's just not always like what you see on TV. So somebody came up to me recently and said, I've been afraid of you because I feel like you're a psychic, and that means you can look through me, that you can read my mind, you can tell what I'm feeling, like you can see all my secrets, right? Maybe you can, look through my clothes, you have x-ray vision, and just tell me what color underwear I'm wearing. Believe me, I've heard all the psychic jokes. And I think there's something really true that we're fearful of, first of all, people who might have this strange ability, and also we're fearful of that aspect of ourselves. And just to let you know, like, it takes effort, just like any other skill, any other thing that we do. It doesn't, for most psychics, and certainly this is true for me, it doesn't just, randomly happen all the time. I mean, sometimes it does turn on when I don't expect it, and that's always a bit annoying. But it's like, let's say you're a physician and you're in the Shaw's buying, you're in the supermarket buying vegetables. You sort of have to switch into the mode. You're not randomly diagnosing you didn't bring your portable x-ray machine. You have to concentrate on it for most of us in order to turn it on. So I do believe, actually, when I train my students, I teach them ethics. There's a lot of poorly trained or psychics that don't understand ethics, which is that we don't look unless we're asked. And the sad thing about the TV psychics is that it seems like if you watch like a show like The Long Island Medium, and she's a wonderful psychic, but it gives the impression that she's walking up to a stranger and doing what I call a psychic hit and run, you know, like she's reading the person without their permission. And of course that's not true because it's a TV show and the person that she's reading has like signed a million waivers, and they've talked about it, there's been a rehearsal. It's not like it's not really good to just walk up and do a psychic hit and run. We have to ask permission. If you want me to read you, you're gonna ask me to. You're gonna come to my office and have a session with me. I'm happy to. Otherwise, I'm not going to invade your privacy or look beyond your privacy barrier, or you know, that's just rude. It's like not polite to do it, and it's unethical. And the other thing too that's true about psychic is that it's like a muscle. So we need to practice this. Everyone has some ability, but we need to practice it. It's like musical ability, athletic ability. Even if you have a ton of latent talent, you still need to work it. You still need to practice it. And I think the other misconception is that when you see TV psychics, everything's super dramatic. It's like, you know, the psychic falls on the floor and foams at the mouth and is like, blah, you know, it's really like overly dramatic. And although, of course, sometimes we have extreme or profound psychic experiences, of course we do, all of us do. For the most part, it's woven very gently into our everyday life. We experience this in the form of hunches, feelings, nudges, dreams, signs and omens, synchronicities, inner knowing, right? And the world and our inner and outer guidance system is constantly flowing information to you all the time. And it's like, is your radar turned on? Are you paying attention? That's really what training is all about. So the other thing that I think is cool is, so I sort of love this old-fashioned term ESP, and extrasensory perception, because I feel like our brain is constantly taking, our brain's like a sensory, you know, we have all these 5 senses, we have all of our psychic senses inputting information into us all the time, and our brain is like this sorting machine that sorts out data. What data are you going to pay attention to, and what data are you going to ignore? We need this to focus our you know, energy and attention so we can sort of track what's going on in the moment, right? And there's sort of studies that say the average person processes about 10 to 15% of the sensory data. So think about like the feeling of your clothes on your skin right now, or the background noises you're hearing, or things on your peripheral vision. We have to tune that stuff out so we can focus on what's happening, right? So we can track what's going on right here. I think that highly intuitive people, highly psychic people, highly intuitive people have learned to process more. They process more than 10%. What if we processed 20%, 25% of the sensory data that we're taking in on any given moment? That would seem sort of magical or unexplainable to people that don't do that. So I think that's also a kind of an interesting way to look at it, a good lens to look at it through. So let's talk a little bit about these terms. And everyone, this is just my definition, like everyone will define them in a different way, but I make a distinction between intuition and psychic. Intuition is more our inner guidance. I believe intuition is the information that we're picking up from our own senses, our own inner knowing. Psychic, the way that I use it, is more when we access information from outside of our system. So that, what does that mean even? We're going to do a little class about that later on. But that would be our angels, our guides, our relatives that have crossed over, like whatever you think of as not you. Like we all can have access to this sort of other. That would be psychic. And sensitive, people use the word, well, I'm a sensitive, and that everyone defines that in a different way. So sensitives are sometimes just like people that are like aware of energy, aware of the energetic, emotional vibes, if you will, right? And then empaths are even something a little bit different too. So an empath is somebody that's absorbing and feeling. It's a kind of psychic ability that specializes, empath specializes in feeling what other people are feeling. And an empath doesn't just notice what somebody else is feeling, they really feel what that person is feeling. Like they'll feel it as it's their feeling. So if I'm next to somebody that's sad, I'll get really sad. It's not like I just notice that person is sad, I will actually feel sad. And there's also physical empathy, which is when we put our hands on people and we feel in our body what they feel in their body, and we feel with our emotions what they feel in their emotions. So that's empathy. And I feel like empaths are, though that skill set is the perfect skill set for people that are meant to be healers. So if you think about it, it's like the perfect diagnostic routine for, it's like built-in MRI X-ray machine for people that are meant to be healers, helpers, caretakers. That gift is for something, right? And I believe all these gifts are for something. So if you have these gifts, the other gift too is mediumship. We hear a lot about mediums on TV. Mediums are psychics that specialize in talking to dead people. So that can be, if that's your skill, it requires its own sort of intense training. So as intuitives and psychics, sensitives, we have specialties inside of that. And it's really good to know what yours is and know how to train it, because they all kind of require different training, right? But here's the tip sort of that I wanted to leave you with today. And that is, what can we do? What is intuition? What is that inner sense that you have? I think it comes in through three channels, intuition. And it's super reliable. It's something that everyone really should know how to access more of their own intuitive self. The first one is through the body. So our bodies are incredibly reliable sources of intuitive information. Your body always knows what's real. It never lies. And it's constantly giving you feedback about whether you're safe, whether, how you feel about things. And the problem is that a lot of people that we tune out of our bodies. We get numb to our bodies. We forget that we have to pay attention to our bodies. So we're a bit tuned out of that. And a lot of increasing your intuitive abilities, getting more in your body and really paying attention to the feedback that we're getting. And if you have this thing, your body will give you maybe it's your stomach. For me, it's my belly. And I'll really feel like happy and loose in my belly, or I feel very tight and clenched or nauseous. There's some feedback that's coming on there. And the other part of intuition is our feelings. If you know anything about the chakras, these are the lower three chakras, right? So the first chakra is your body. Your second chakra is your feelings. And it can be your emotions, like how, we can sort of chunk it down into you have a good feeling or a bad feeling about it. And just notice if you ever say that to yourself, I don't have a good feeling about this. Or I have a good feeling about that. Like, that's what I'm talking about. And also how your emotions run. Are you happy? Are you angry? Are you scared? Right? Then we sort of pair this with what's happening in the body. And we're going to begin to get really accurate information about what's happening in any given moment and how that's affecting us and how we feel about it. Then on top of that, we go to the third chakra, the solar plexus, and we take our inner knowing. I don't know why I know, I just know. And it's the knowing of the gut. It's not the knowing of the brain. Your brain and your mind is problematic in a way when we do psychic work, because it can your brain is often trying to talk you out of paying attention to these other three things. So somebody walks into the room, for example, and your body's stomach turns over and you feel cold and queasy and you want to pull away from that person, and your feelings are icky, and your knowing is like that is not a person for me. Like, that's a scary person. And your brain will be like, what are you talking about? That's a perfectly good person. Why do you feel that way? Everybody else likes that person. What are you? You're crazy. Like, really? Come on, just be nice. That's what good people do, right? And meanwhile, your whole intuitive system's like, wah, danger, danger, right? And you know how that story ends, don't you? Because that's what happens to us. When our mind overrides this intuitive information, it doesn't usually go well for us, right? So that's your intuition, and it's constantly giving you information. Your job is to pay attention to it. And this is where I see work to be done for most people. And there's really three things we need to do to increase our intuition. The first thing we have to do is we have to take time to listen. So we're so busy, we run around, we don't take time. And your intuition is going to come through you when you're in moments of quiet, when you're walking your dog, when you're doing your dishes, when you're meditating, when you're in the tubby, when you're driving. You know, when you're sitting to quiet yourself, that's when these parts of us, you know, can have time to speak. We have to take time. And we also have to pay attention. So I see people, and it happens to me too, or get messages all the time that we ignore, like that example that I just gave you. So we have to honor this too. So we honor it by acting on it. More often than not, I'm not saying you should follow every crazy little whim that enters your mind, you know, or enters your being about every little thing, but more often than not, 51% of the time, most of the time, you know, we have to honor our intuition by really consulting it, by really considering, by really, you know, and when I do make decisions, I'll often think about it logically, and do some analytical reasoning, deduction, and then consult my intuition as sort of an equal partner, you know. And oftentimes for me, my intuition is going to have a little bit more sway. Of course, I'm not going to like jump off a bridge because my intuition tells me to, but I do think that because our intuition is more connected to our soul, right? So your soul doesn't have a way to speak to your mind. It has to bypass your mind and go to these other parts of us. It goes into the body, into the heart, into the feeling sense. So if you want to have live a more soulful life, live a life that's more connected with your life purpose, we have to really heavily consider our intuition, because that is our inner guidance system. That's why intuition is so important. That's why I consider our inner guidance. Psyche is outer guidance, intuition is inner guidance. And your soul is speaking to you directly through this intuition all the time, and that's why it's so important. Okay, so I hope that you start doing that, just really taking time, acting on it, and paying attention, because you're going to notice a big difference. You're going to have a revelation just about how intuitive you really are if you do those things. So that's it for today, and tune in tomorrow when we talk more about what our psychic senses are. Okay, everybody. Thanks. Bye.